Breakthrough. Brain or muscles? What do we lose first? I'm Steve Blair. Welcome to Breakthroughs. UNIDGE researchers have shown that the decline of cognitive abilities after 50 years of age results in a decline of physical activity, and that, contrary to what has been suggested by literature to date, the inverse relationship is much weaker. Someone dies somewhere in the world every 10 seconds owing to physical inactivity. 3.2 million people a year, according to the World Health Organization. From the age of 50, there is a gradual decline, not just in physical activity, but also in cognitive abilities, since the two are correlated. But which of them influences the other? Does physical activity impact on the brain, or is it the other way around? To answer this question, researchers used a database of over 100,000 people aged 50 to 90, whose physical and cognitive abilities were measured every 2 years for 12 years. The findings were published in the journal Health Psychology, show that, contrary to what was previously thought, cognitive abilities ward off inactivity much more than physical activity prevents the decline of cognitive abilities, all of which means we need to prioritize exercising our brains. The literature in this area has been looking at the impact of physical activity on cognitive skills for a number of years. Correlations have been established between the two factors, particularly in terms of memory, but also regarding the growth and survival of new neurons, begins Boris Chevelle. But we never yet formally tested which came first. Does physical activity prevent a decline in cognitive skills, or vice versa? That's what we wanted to verify. Earlier studies based on the correlation between physical activity and cognitive skills postulated that the former prevented the decline of the latter. But what if this research only told half the story? That's what the recent studies suggest, since they demonstrate that our brain is involved when it comes to engaging in physical activity, continues the Geneva-based researcher. The UNIDGE researchers tested the two possible options formally using data from the SHARE Survey of Health, Aging and Retirement in Europe, a European-wide social economic database covering over 25 countries. The cognitive abilities and level of physical activity of 105,206 adults aged 50 to 90 were tested every 2 years over a 12-year period. Cognitive abilities were measured using a verbal fluency test, naming as many animals as possible in 60 seconds, and a memory test, memorizing 10 words and reciting them afterwards. Physical activity was measured on a scale of 1, never, to 4, more than once a week. The Geneva researchers employed this data in 3 separate statistical models. In the first, they looked at whether physical activity predicated the change in cognitive skills over time. In the second, whether cognitive skills predicated the change in physical activity. And in the third, they tested the two possibilities bidirectionally. Thanks to a statistical index, we found that the second model adjusted most precisely to the data of the participants, said Chevelle. The study demonstrates, therefore, that cognitive capabilities mainly influence physical activity and not vice versa, as the literature to date had postulated. Obviously, it's a virtuous cycle, since physical activity also influences our cognitive capabilities. But in light of these new findings, it does so to a lesser extent. From the age of 50, the decline in physical and cognitive abilities is inevitable. However, these results indicate that, contrary to what was once thought, if we first act on our cognitive skills, we can slow the decline of this virtuous cycle. This study backs up our theory that the brain has to make a real effort to get out of the sedentary lifestyle, and that by working on cognitive capabilities, physical activities will follow. Wow. Okay. Good to know. I'll leave a link in the description to the full article, and as usual, please like, share, subscribe, and take care.